Okay guys, I want to show you the process of making the object cells from sheet material instead of from tube. Some big advantages to making it from sheet compared to tubing. Because when you work with tubing, you're limited to the wall thicknesses of the tubing that you can purchase. If you buy the acrylic in sheets, you can cut it to whatever diameter you want, so you'll be able to get the wall thickness that you want, and you can make it virtually any way that you want it. So one thing to be aware of when you buy acrylic sheet, this is just like when you use tubing, you want to use cast acrylic sheet, cell cast acrylic sheet. So this is sold as 3/4 inch clear, but one of the things you'll run into is it won't be 3/4 of an inch. This is 720, so it's a 32nd under 3/4 of an inch. So if you needed to make one that was going to be a full 3/4 of an inch, you'll have to order 1 inch, which will come up. It will come in short also. So here I got 3/4 inch clear. I got 1/8 inch clear. So the 1/8 inch actually measuring 125, but that's with the paper on. So when you pull the paper off, that's going to be short of an 1/8 inch also. It's also worth noting that cast acrylic sheet is not consistent everywhere. So you have to allow, you have to machine off the excesses to bring it into uniformity. So this sheet might be 10 thousandths thicker on this corner than it is on this corner. And if you're doing critical work, that could throw you off a bit. So I got 3/4 inch clear for the main body of the object cell. I got 1/8 inch clear for the front window, and I've got 1/4 inch thick black for the back of the object cell. So here's the rough end of the object cell that I'm going to be making. First thing I'm going to do is lay out where these are going to come out from the sheet and get rough blanks cut out. Okay guys, I'm going to cut this sheet. What I like to do is I like to cut the sheet into blanks that I can cut these out of. So I'm going to be able to get 4 of them across this way, and I don't know how many the other way. Anyways, I'm gonna cut these so they have a little bit of room around them, and I've basically just divided this sheet for even cuts, so there's not going to be very much waste with this one. Okay, since I got the saw set up, I'm going to go ahead and cut the tops and the backs also, because of the way I've got it divided out, it's going to be even cuts. So it'll just save me time if I cut them all. Also, it's worth noting, I'm using the sheet with the paper on it instead of the plastic wrap. Paper wrap is a lot easier to work with. The only negative to the paper wrap is if you let it set and get too old, it can be difficult to remove. So as long as you rotate and always use the old stuff first, it's really not a problem. There's the 1/4 inch black for the back of the object cell. Same procedure. I'm going to go ahead and rip it into strips. I'm using a triple chip carbide tip blade. It's a 60 tooth carbide tip blade, and it's triple chip grind on it, and it's a ground for cutting acrylic. Very easy to find a a blade that's specifically ground for cutting acrylic now. Okay, I'm going to stop and change the setup and cut them the other direction now. Okay guys, I'm going to cut these, I'm going to cut them into little squares now. One thing to note is this is not a video on tool safety. I don't have a guard on this table saw. I'm doing what I'm comfortable with. You should follow all the tool manufacturers' guidelines for safety on your equipment. So this is just the way that I do it. I'm going to cut them the thinner material I'm going to cut 4 at once. Okay, and then this is the 1/8 inch clear. I'm going to cut it into squares. The 3/4 inch material, this table saw has a 5 horsepower engine, so I can probably cut 2 at once, but it's heavy enough. I'm going to cut in 1 at a time. Okay, I want to emphasize one more time. That's not about safety. That is the way I do it. You should follow the tool manufacturer's recommended safety guidelines. Okay, we'll continue on from there. Okay guys and gals, now we got the 3/4 inch thick object cell parts, and we're marking a circle on them for the rough cut. So we're drawing the actual size that the object cell is going to be turned down to, but we're going to cut on the outside of that when we cut. So you can see over here is the fronts are all ready and the backs are already all cut up sitting there too. Okay, so we'll proceed over to the next step and we'll rough cut these out. Okay guys, now I'm going to rough saw this into a large disc. This is the 3/4 inch body of the object cell. The pencil line is the actual finished size, so I'm just going to knock these corners off so that I can turn it easier. So that's all that takes. Now you can see I've got plenty of material around the outside there, so I got plenty of room to turn it out of. Alright, get ready for the next step. Okay guys, now we're going to turn this down to a uniform size puck. Sweet, now we'll be ready for the next step. 2 and 500, 2.5, just what we wanted. Okay guys, now we're just going to punch a 1/2-inch hole in these as a starting point for the boring bar. It's difficult to bore acrylic. Oh, there you are, Smiley. Difficult to open it up without putting a starter hole in it for the boring bar to go into. Okay guys, now we're going to open that object cell up to the full inside diameter that we want. Okay, let's see what it looks like. There you go. Plenty of space for all your beautiful object cell pieces. Point of view operations. This is a boring job.
Voila!
Beautiful! Gonna put the black for the background and the main body of the object cell together. So you see we're sitting in front of a window here. The window's open. And down at that end of the studio there's an exhaust fan cross ventilating the room. We're using the number 3 weld on. I have a little applicator, needle applicator bottle. You can see she uses compressed air. She's dusting off the parts. She's unwrapping the one clean side on the object cell. Now she's going to pre-wet the parts. There's different ways you can do this. This is our favorite. This is the non-critical glue up here. It's always better to have too much glue than not enough glue. So she's basically wetted down both parts thoroughly. Now she dumped the excess off of one, and this is the critical part. The way that she lays it on there and lets it come from one side across to the other is how you eliminate bubbles. And when it's done, it should have a floating feeling to it. So now you can see that's bubble free. She's adding more glue around the edge because sometimes when the way that you lay it down, excuse me, it pushes all the glue over to one side. So if it ends up with a dry area over here, you can add some at the end. So let's watch it again. She dusted off the back. unwrapping the clean side of the object cell. Comes a soak. She makes a puddle using a circular motion. The excess glue on the inside of this object cell is not going to show once the object cell is filled with fluid. That's why this is a pretty uncritical step. Now she's going to dump that and then touch down on this side closest to her, and you'll see that chase right across, and then it floats. This plate that she's doing the glue up on, it has these 3 level feet. So each one of these plates, when she started, she's taken a little 8-inch level and she's leveled the plates in both directions. Super critical that the work surface that you're working on is dead level. Otherwise the glue goes where you don't want it. So here it goes again. Circular motion, a bigger puddle than we need. Now she's just wetting the other part. As soon as she gets it completely wet, she dumps off the excess and then immediately goes on. Now if you don't touch on one side and gently let this down, you'll trap air bubbles in it. Go ahead. There, stop like that. Alright, we intentionally dump it. We left one part dry, now just drop it on there. There. Now, see all these trapped air bubbles? Now, if that happens, you can pull it right back off if you do it quick enough. Then you can re-wet the part just like you're starting from scratch. If you do it promptly enough. If you don't, and when you lift it back off, if you let it slide and scrape, you'll pull plastic material with you, and even though you go back and redo it, it'll still be unsuccessful. So now she's going to put it back on gently, like, there we go. You got a nice floater and no air bubbles. Okay, guys and gals, I'm going to do the next step on these, which is to trim the excess around from the outside. But I wanted to just show you real quickly that not every single time you do this will it be absolutely perfect. There's a little air bubble right there on this one. I think that will show. There it shows as a reflection. Anyhow, it won't always be perfect, but as long as you have a large enough area, then you can get away with one little tiny air bubble. Here's another one that has little tiny air bubble up there. See it there in the reflection. But this object cell has a huge cross section to it up there, so one little bubble in the right place is not going to hurt everything, and it doesn't demand that that part be thrown away. So there you go. You can see that was just to get rid of the excess on the outside, and I'm going to put it back in the lathe and trim that off flush where it was before. Okay guys, now we're going to flush trim that up and get rid of the excess on the edge there. Okay, now we're going to face this off down to its final thickness. 74. All right, sweet. Okay guys, now we're going to machine a small shoulder on here to reduce the gluing surface where the when we're going to put the top on this. So you can see this now. This is where the front's going to glue onto the object cell, and then this rabbit's going to get cut deeper, and that's going to get cut smaller in diameter. So any glue slop over, we're going to remachine it off later. So that's it for that step.
Crank and burn.
Us. Okay guys, now we're going to drill the filler hole in these object cells. So with acrylic, especially since this is a deep hole, which is going to have a real thick sidewall, you have to do what they call peck drilling. So just going to go up and down with this drill bit and clear the flutes, because it doesn't have a lot of flute on this little combination drill bit that we're using. There, you can see it in cross section. Alright guys, now we're going to tap the threads in this hole. You can do it by hand, but I do a whole bunch of them, so I just use the hand drill. So that's tapped, and I like to clear the chips out of there. That gets the chips out of the flute so that when I back up the other way, it doesn't tear up the threads. And then you can just blow the excess out of that. Let's do another one.
You're fun.
The power drill is not really recommended for a beginner. I'll show you a hand tap in a later video. But if you've got a lot of them to do and you learn how to do it, you get this centered, you just go straight in. You don't want to pull the trigger and go flying through. Clear the chips out. Reverse the drill. And that's all there is to it. Okay guys, we're getting ready to glue the caps on these object cells. So as much as you can, you try to get the pieces so they're not touching up in the corner, because any excess glue is going to run down there and glue your pieces to the back of the object cell. So this is a little bit different. She's put what's going to be the front up on the top, and she's using the object cell as a guide to run a puddle of glue around it. Then she sets that over here, so that part's just been wetted. And it's pretty critical the amount of glue you get on that part. It's pretty much a trial and error thing. She just dumped the excess off that and turned it over, And now real careful, she's going to touch on one side, come over to the next. That. Now you'll be able to easily see if you get too much glue here and it runs to the inside. Like this here.
There was a little bit there that ran to the inside.
She had one little bit run in. Anyways, there is a trick for getting stuck pieces loose. We'll show you that. But outside of that, this is just simply a matter of trial and error. You have to just keep doing it till you get it right. When it's on there the right way, when you let go of it, it'll float around. And if you get too much glue and you hold up on it, some of the glue will evaporate away and you can gently let it down. So here she is scooting the pieces into the center to try to keep them from getting stuck to the back.
Keeping it straight.
Oh yeah. It's a consideration where the filler hole is because it's going to have to be filled before the excess is turned off. So you see, it's just the capillary action. It's just got a little hump all the way around it. She flips the excess off of that part that's been wetted, touches down there and gently lets it over, and then now she's actually holding up on it a little bit as she swirls it around, which spreads the glue and leaves it run up to the edges. And then she let go of it. And that's it.
So there's a little drip down right over there.
Yeah. I don't think you can see that on the video, but anyways, we'll show you a trick on how to reach inside and knock stuck pieces loose later on. Okay guys, we're going to fill these object cells up now. As we mentioned yesterday, sometimes you'll have a piece get stuck from the glue that runs to the inside. So Shelley's going to reach in there with this fabulous paper clip. And there you go, she just reached in there and knocked it loose with the wire, and then it's ready to be filled. Now you see this jig that is holding the object cell in there with this little plunger on it. It's put the object cell in compression, so it's actually being squeezed in. Now she's cleaning off the nozzle on this syringe because you don't want to foul the hole when she puts the syringe in. And then, believe it or not, for 25 years this is pretty much the system we've used. We just have a water bottle with the fluid in it, and then we inject it into the object cell. So we're going to leave a nice bubble in there. And the bubble in the object cell, it allows for the fluid to expand and contract. It gives it a cushion. So you see, when she went to pull that needle out, she pulled back on the plunger, and that pulls the fluid that's coming out in, and so she can pull it out of the object cell without fouling the object cell. Now she's going to take the silicone sealer. She put that on the screw to hold it onto the screwdriver because this is a deep hole to reach into. So she's getting that silicone everywhere but the end of the threads. So there's none going to go into the object cell, but it's underneath the head of the screw. And it's hard to describe, but that is just screwed down firmly. But if you crank on it too hard, you'll strip the threads out. So that's something you're going to have to learn by trial and error of doing it. I would recommend you take some plexiglass or a cell that didn't go the right way and drill a whole bunch of holes in it and screw your screws into it and twist them until you do strip it out, and then you'll understand how hard you can screw it. There you go. So that's it. Now we got a fluid-filled object cell. Now you can really see the screw. Hold still for a second. If we can get the reflections out. You can see the screw and the threads. We're using a stainless steel screw in there. So that's it. Here's the other one. See, it's got some stuck in there. There's a couple pieces stuck. There you go. Now you can see the indents that those pieces left where the capillary action glued them down. So if they're touching out there on the edge where the glue runs down, the glue runs down and hits them, and then it capillaries underneath them and they get stuck to the back. Those will disappear when the fluid goes in. So this is the magic paper clip. This thing's been in thousands of object cells. Okay guys, we got the front of this object cell masked off. Now we're going to make a rough cut to get rid of the major excess. Just pull it off, it's just stuck from the chips.
Oh, I see.
So that's just to get that out of our way. Now we're going to come back and machine that edge down to the finished size. So we'll do the other one. There we go. Okay guys, now we're going to machine this down to its final size. Alright, and you can see that's got a 1/4 inch deep rabbet that's going to drop into the body of the kaleidoscope. Like that. So it gives you a visual of the integrated object cell. Now we're just going to cut a little groove in the edge of this for glue retention. And when the kaleidoscope is done, pull that out. It's going to have a little groove in there so that there'll be a groove on each side for the glue to flow into. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're going to put in that the groove for the glue retention. Now you can see it. Okay guys, now we're going to just turn this down to a rough profile. At this point now you could make this shape anything that you wanted to match your kaleidoscope design. And that's the beauty of this process, is we've got a huge amount of material out here. We can shape it any way we want. So I'm just going to do a simple bevel. Now, You can see there's the, I call it the belly button. And the reason we recessed that screw in so far was so we could do whatever we wanted on the outside out here. But another thing to consider when you make any of the object cells with either method, when you machine this off, we took quite a bit of material off, so now this is soft on the glue line. So if you try to sand and polish this right now, a lot of times it'll leave a little soft gummy line around there. If you let this set for a day and then come back and sand it and polish it, you'll get way better results. So that should pretty much wrap it up. All you would do from here is just sand and wet sand this and buff it and polish it. So I'm going to cover that in the other video, so I'm not going to continue it on here. Okay.
Welcome to my chicken paradise.
Oh, you want some treats? Huh? Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, Lizzie, hold on. Hey, girls. You're little. Lizzie, you want more? Here. Here, girls. Ow! The little buffs are aggressive. You want some tidbit?
Is there eggs in there?
Yeah, we got 2 eggs already. That's 4 eggs we've gotten today.
Fresh eggs. Oops.
How exciting, girls.
Chickens everywhere.
Ready? Come eat. Oh, here. Oh, look at this. Oh, that feels so good, huh? Doesn't that feel good? Does that feel good? Do you want some? You want some, Roxy? Oh, yes. It feels so good, huh? Yeah, oh, yeah. Did you get the rubbing? Huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, it feels so good. You girls are spoiled. Yeah, you're spoiled, huh? You're spoiled, huh? Oh, you want more, huh? I know, it feels so good, huh? It feels so good, doesn't it? There you go. There you go.